going to move on to talk to our first featured poet of the evening, who is Sharon Greene. So Sharon, are you there and ready, please?
Yes, hello everybody. Nice to see everybody.
That's lovely. Okay, so Sharon is tonight's first featured poet. On her Instagram page, Rhymes and Roses, she describes herself as an Earthian from Guildford. And to quote her, poet of a certain age, jotting rhymes upon the page, most are simple, some ironic, best enjoyed with gin and tonic. Repost with ease, credit and tag, please. And I think you can't get a better description than that. Sharon has recently completed an MA in creative writing at the University of Surrey, where she helped to publicise their annual Writers' Festival. She co-ran a short form poetry workshop and the open mic as well. A member of the New York-based Poetics University, Sharon has delivered a couple of week-long poetry forms workshops via Instagram. She assists with their communications and regularly joins their open mics. More locally, in addition to an invitation to be feature poet at the Arts Richmond Poetry Performance Group in November, Sharon is a member of her local Poetry Society stanza group who perform at the Lightbox in Woking. And she also joins the Brighton Pier Poetry Group's open mics via Zoom on a monthly basis. Sharon shares poetry which attempts to make sense of modern life and celebrate nature. Sharon enjoys experimenting with rhymes and poetic forms and has produced 2 booklets, Introducing Rhymes and Roses and Viral Odes, the latter a collection of pandemic poems published by Ink Gladiators Press and available via her website. In addition, she has poems in over 10 international anthologies. Most recently, she has contributed poems to an anthology, Daily Release, for University of Surrey and an international collection called Ashes in the Glen. So, Sharon, it seems your work and prestigious and prolific output that you are a lady who eats, sleeps and dreams poetry. What first got you started and what do you enjoy about poetry most?
I think it was really when I used to go and stay with my grandmother when I was little, and she used to enjoy rhymes, and when we would go to her church groups, they would sing choruses, and I think that actually taught me about rhymes and made me enjoy them more actually through trying them out for myself.
And what do you enjoy most about poetry?
Well, I enjoy playing with words. I like the emotions and the images that they can conjure. So I would say that it's also a way of setting down my thoughts and feelings, and then ordering them in my mind through doing that.
Oh, that's interesting. A lot of poets actually do that, and you can sometimes tackle some quite difficult issues in life by seeing what comes out in the poetic process. But how does your work sort of work? I mean, do poems come quickly or do they take time?
I'd say they do come quite quickly. I'm quite lucky, but I do like to let them sit for a while, and especially before I would post them on social media. I like them. I like to leave them, maybe go to sleep or have a walk, and then have a look and see if I'm happy with them and change them as necessary. Because I think that a bit of time left for a bit of time, you can make improvements.
Oh, lovely. Okay, but it sounds like quite a quick process overall. You're not leaving them a longer time.
No, no, not at all.
No, it's interesting. But you are involved in a number of poetry groups and workshops. And how have these helped the evolution of your work?
A lot, actually. I've really been inspired by listening to other poets, just like here tonight, to hear how people use words and express themselves. But also there are lots of prompts on, say, for instance, Instagram, picture prompts or word prompts, and I use them because they're often things I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So I appreciate that.
Oh, that's quite an interesting thing to hear as a prompt to the work and a way of broadening that out. That does sound quite fun. Yeah. Your work has featured a number of different poetic forms, you know, and really gone into all of the detail of what's available in poetry. What sort of prompted this interest, do you think?
I think it's I suppose it's a bit like a word game. It's a puzzle. Sometimes if you've got to fit words into a certain number of syllables, lines, or stanzas, if you're told you have to begin with a certain word, or if it's an acrostic, you know which letter you have to begin the line with. I just enjoy that as a sort of a puzzle, really, to get my mind working.
Okay. And interesting to look through your booklet, Viral Odes, which is a lovely thing to have come out of the COVID pandemic. A number of poets have been inspired by this sort of whole experience. What do you think is coming next for you?
Well, I'm doing another course actually at City Lit, a college in London, and I'm learning from contemporary poets, especially local poets, to see what they're doing, and I just probably going to try and branch a bit more into free verse, have a go with it, and then try and assemble both rhyming and free verse together some way.
Well, it's interesting to hear about all of the different directions and things that you've explored and examined in poetry, and it sounds as if you've got a lot of enjoyment from it. What advice would you give to other poets, and what has enabled you to get the best enjoyment from being a poet?
I think just enjoy it for its own sake. It doesn't have to go anywhere. You don't have to sort of share it. You can learn from it and keep it for yourself. But also, really, what I've loved is meeting other poets and learning from them and reading their work. So that's what I found. It's a sort of, I'm not sure where I would go with it, but I'm just enjoying the moment.
No, well that's great. Well, it's been lovely to talk to you tonight, Sharon. That's smashing. Thank you very much indeed. You're now going to read a lovely selection of your work. We've been talking about this, and I'm really looking forward to some of the things that you're now about to go through. So, Sharon, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And my first poem is called Poetry. You mentioned this is my first pamphlet, was called Introducing Rhymes and Roses, and I've set down how my thoughts on poetry, attitudes to poetry, and my approach to it. Poetry's pretty, poetry's quick. Sometimes it slips off the tongue, it's so slick. Poetry's old, the ancients would use it. It helped to recall things, but now we abuse it. Back in the days when they had much more time, people got pleasure from hearing a rhyme. Were they more simple and easily pleased, or did yesterday's poets also get teased? Many great works now recited and treasured were written in verse that was carefully measured. Some prefer rhyming, and I'm one of those. At the moment, it's less of a challenge than prose. It can be contrived, but for me, it's a sport to turn into rhyme a genuine thought. Others would choose a more natural style. It may be more honest and lacking in guile. It sticks to the point and can be more grand, and there's less risk of sounding too woolly and bland. Since starting to write, I've done some research and found that today poetry's a broad church. Some write for pleasure and others to preach. Some find it healing, a bit like a leech. It seems there are lots of ways to get printed, but no likelihood of ending up minted. I think I'll continue to develop my style, combining nostalgia with raising a smile. Thank you. And back in 2007, I joined a creative writing class at the Guildford Institute. And this was one of the prompts. It was to write a poem about walls. In the kitchen, they are often daubed with spots of oil and food. It is her job to scrub them, but she's never in the mood. They are souvenirs of struggles to produce a decent dinner. After many years of trying, there hasn't been a winner. The hall tries to impress with designer swirls in flock. Featured in a magazine, they were soon out of stock. The effect is somewhat marred by the added mud and hair imposed by their wet dog to show he too has flair. The dining room is splendid with speakers and mood lighting to create an ambiance and deter the mealtime fighting. There are also works of art. He admires them, hands on hips. She has her doubts, however, as they mostly came from skips. The lounge is really cosy in rose that's going grey. Framed snaps depict them at their peak or record a special day. Drama comes from a candle scorch when it was left to smoulder, and red wine stains from an angry glass when its contents made her bolder. In the bathroom there are tiles that cause a lot of shouting. The leaks and damp won't stop till he redoes the grouting. Half of it is mirrored. Those tiles were a good buy, but since she gave up slimming, she cannot meet her eye. To the sinful scarlet bedroom, TV's Lawrence is to blame. It hasn't changed their love life, but it looks good all the same. And it's added spice to dreams, whisking her to eastern shores, only to wake suddenly to the horror of his snores. A wander round reminds her how much she loves it here. The walls are full of memories of sadness mixed with cheer. Although a move is something that they have been contemplating, she cannot bear the thought of all the pre-sale decorating. Thank you. And this next one is a subject that's become very familiar to me, the menopause, but it's also something that's often seen in a negative light. So I try to turn it into a sort of, to see the benefits of the menopause in a poem. The menopause, for all its flaws, there is an upside too. It may not be PC to say, but it's a point of view. You save on bills as you don't feel chills, and it stimulates debate. The thermostat is the family hub where you all congregate. It's a battleground and fights abound because some like it hot. But demonically you turn it down, a democracy it's not. Bingo wings and mood state swings are side effects, they say, so you can eat continually and wind them up all day. You lose your figure as you get bigger and often feel quite bloated, but can dress for summer all year round whilst others go out coated. Unfortunately, poor memory can make you think you're crazy, but that excuse is handy if you want to just be lazy. The menopause is a gift because if natural, if brutal, you gradually adapt to it and at least you're carbon neutral. Some clever folk will learn to yoke the heat we generate so we can save the planet. Now, wouldn't that be great? In time, you'll see the simplicity of life post-menstruation, and menopausal women will be toasted by the nation, and not in a witchy way. Thank you. I love photographing flowers and nature, which explains the rose part of my Instagram name. And this poem, the short poem, is about a rose and the various stages it goes through. Closed tight, you invite a glimpse, an insight to the hem of your dress, a delight. Next, ablaze, you amaze, and your heart draws our gaze. Skirts swirling, unfurling, we praise. Now splayed, you've parted, yet defiant, unafraid, you parade, negligee, then gently fade. Thank you. We mentioned Viral Odes, which is the book that I produced in pamphlet I produced in lockdown, and this was a poem actually about the beginning of the lockdown, the longest journey when we first discovered about COVID. From humble beginnings, humongous ambition, propelled me to launch on this deadly mission. Far east to wild west, chill north to deep south. My home is yours too. I live hand to mouth. My path is a riddle with many connections. Whilst they are unbroken, I cause more infections. I love to explore. It fills me with glee. My invisible cloak will always be key. The longest journey to so many lands. Where I go next is out of your hands. Thank you. And another theme I often enjoy writing about is nature, and particularly concerns about global warming. And this is a poem that I've written in a form called the Welsh Sonnet. Flower Power. Meadow flower, forest glade, high in jungle's canopy. There the planet's breath is made, drawing, delving deep and free. On those airways this ark sails, block them, and our lifeblood fails. Forest filters, fight for me. Bushfires, flooding, drought and storms, weathers morphed to horror show. Winds wage war, defying norms, structures fall and systems slow. Now we are with virus vexed, what on earth will happen next? Meadow flower, heal your foe. Thank you. And just as part of my my course, there was a masterclass with the poet Ian Sinclair, and he asked us all to produce work for this book, which is called High Salvage, and I wrote a free verse poem on walking out after lockdown with my dog, or during lockdown. It's called Daily Release. Under grey sky, mottled with hints of hopeful blue, breath hovers on the chill of eyeball-hugging air. A nervous jogger calls her dog away. Mine could indeed be contaminated, his fur draped in an invisible COVID cloak. Inhaling traces of wood burner, then notes of damp decay, we trudge the mud path, smooth with the stomp of steely weekend walkers. Spring forces new life through twig's end, as buds of wild rhododendron pimp hope, yellow pops from gorse and daffodil. Trees stand as sentinels, bark naked, ringed by the rotting russet remains of robes discarded. Some have sought discreet cover, now wrapped in lichen or moss. Others have grooves too gnarled for filling, or flash their silver slinky skin. Storm-wrecked carcasses dot the route, dumped where they dropped, sprouts of new but messy life, antennae of inglorious survival. Generations trapped at the home in the family tree. An empty plastic poo bag dropped from a negligent pocket scars the sand. I salvage it willingly, introducing it to my stash. Giddy mums obstruct us, gathering after drop-off. They compare captivity and celebrate release. A kind lady bravely encourages me to let Dougie off the lead to play. Her spaniel enjoys it at first. They have missed opportunities to socialise and be trained during lockdown. My golden boy could be overweight, apparently. I thank her and try to peel his nose from her pocket without getting too close. This is a hilly route, and I'm glad no one can hear my panting as 4 legs pull 2 up the steep ascent. I allow them a sand bath while I recover, then realise he's on strike. To get him up, I prefer more treats for bad behaviour. He is learning. The outstandingly beautiful view is naturally better in sunshine, but still fair. Fortunately, I see it daily, but a change would be as good as a rest. We skirt the empty benches. I could sit here with a friend now, if I had one that was Doug friendly. Thank you. And there's just a final one, and I'd really like to say thank you all very much for listening. And this was one that Clive liked, and it's called Wash Day, and it's in the form of a madrigal. So thank you, everybody. Wash Day. Each day we have's unique in every way. The setting of the sun brings joy and pain. We spin within a force that we can't tame. Our golden orb descends, it cannot stay, sky washing as it wends all shades of flame. Each day we have's unique in every way. The setting of the sun brings joy and pain. Milestones leave merry marks as they sashay. Dull doubts and raw regrets in ash remain. Our task, cleanse and refresh, learn from each stain. Each day we have's unique in every way. The setting of the sun brings joy and pain. We spin within a force that we can't tame. And thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Sharon. My goodness, wow, what a wonderful, wonderful range of poems that you brought to us this evening. And I just love the crafting of the words in that last poem in Wash Day. It's just such a powerful thing, and it combines so many elements. And again, I particularly like the whole very clever observational side of daily release, but it's looking a little bit deeper at what's going on behind the surface, as well as all the things that actually happen to you when you're out on the dog walk. And I think you return to your chosen themes very often and articulate them beautifully, but I also like the contemporary nature of the menopause. So I think there is just so much in your work that I've enjoyed, and I would very much commend your work to other folks who want to explore it more. You do have the books which you've shared with us this evening, and you upload a lot of stuff onto your website and social media as well. So thank you very much indeed. We've thoroughly enjoyed it tonight. Thank you, Sharon.